Hello, class. Today we're going to finish up lesson 4 of chapter 16. We're finishing up our discussion on sacraments. Make sure you have your notebook out. Your learning objective is I will be able to describe the grace you receive from each sacrament. I will be able to describe the grace you receive from each sacrament. We have 2 slides. They're a little bit bigger today, but it's just going to be a notes day today. So once you have your learning objective written down, make sure you wrote the title for lesson 4, Sacramental Grace. And just a reminder, if at any point you need more time on a slide, you can pause the video and you can continue to copy down your notes. So sacramental grace, what is sacramental grace? In addition to sanctifying grace, sacramental grace is conferred with each sacrament. This is the specific graces that are given by each sacrament. So there are specific ones for specific sacraments, with especially confession, the sacrament of, or the sacramental grace of, forgiveness, penance, kind of that purification of your heart and soul, kind of being reborn again and having that closer relationship with God again. And so this next slide, we're going to break down each sacrament and the sacramental grace you receive for that said sacrament. Now, I know that this slide looks like a doozy, but don't stress. This is our last slide for notes today. If you want to, you can kind of do a makeshift Cornell where you have the sacrament on the left side and the grace on the right. So that way, you can make a chart. You could really organize it any way you want to since it's religion class. Just make sure you fully write what the sacramental grace does for each sacrament, because you'll need that for your quiz and your test. So you want to make sure you have that. First is baptism in the gray. Baptism, the sacramental grace you receive is to live a holy life united with God. Remember before that with original sin, we didn't have a relationship with God, we were broken. And so we become adopted sons and daughters of God through that sacrament, and it really starts our life and our journey here on earth united to God and close to God. Then there's confirmation, which is grace to be strong in faith and loyal to Jesus, witnessing to him in word and deed as we journey to heaven. So the witness aspect is very, very important because in baptism, you have your parents and your godparents making those commitments for you to live a holy and devout life. But then with confirmation, you are being called to act out and to live that life yourself, since you are old enough and you've learned enough about your faith to make that choice. Then we have Holy Eucharist, which is grace to love Jesus with all of our heart and to love our neighbors as ourselves. So it's that true closeness with Christ, and also to understand, his power and his love within us and within the miracle of the Eucharist every day at Mass. Then there's penance or confession, which is grace to overcome our sinful desires and actions. We receive that forgiveness from God. We grow closer to God, or go back into that united front in our relationship with him. Anointing of the sick, grace to accept our sickness and to die a good death. So this one really helps people understand, the power and beauty of suffering and how, it can be really hard, and obviously it's not pleasant, but it can be for a greater purpose than just that. So yeah, anointing of the sick. Then we have holy orders, which is grace to live good lives dedicated to preaching the gospel and administering the sacraments. Then we have holy orders, which is grace to live good lives dedicated to preaching the gospel and administering the sacraments. This is a very special grace given, to priests to be able to administer that grace and to live, their vocation fully out and to be a true example of Christ. And then last is matrimony, which is the grace for husband and wife to love each other until death and to be good parents. This one is especially important because, especially for the husband and wife, because you need those graces to, to lay down one's life for one another, to truly embody the idea of selflessness and servitude towards others. But yeah, so these are all the graces. If you're not done with these, you can pause the video. But this is wrapping up chapter 16. So you will then take your quiz in our next lesson. And then we'll start preparing for our religion test, our last religion test at that. So it's been crazy, but yep. Today's a no day, so you guys keep up good work.